The America's Animal Pack for Planet Zoo was just announced, and I am here to give you all the latest scoop on it. Welcome to the channel, everyone. Hope you guys are having the most wonderful and wonderful days. My name is Leaf, and let's jump into it. Let's talk about the America's Animal Pack Planet Zoo, the 19th DLC for this game. With the release of the America's Animal Pack for Planet Zoo, we are going to see 7 unique species, if you could call them that, make their way to the game of Planet Zoo. These are as follows: the ocelot, the greater RHEA, the American flamingo, the white-faced Saki, the coyote, the bush dog, and the bighorn sheep. Only 7 animals this time. There is no exhibit animal, which is a little disheartening, but it's been the case like that for ever since the RHEA Animal Pack, I believe. No exhibit animals have kind of graced us, which is a little bit of a shame, but we're going to dissect all of this in a little bit. But besides that, we also get 80 new scenery pieces. We are told that they are synonymous and inspired by the American continent. Create a rustic southwestern feel with ranch gates and ironwork window guards. So basically the Barnyard Animal Pack all over again. There's also wall lanterns, street lamps, vibrant fabrics, mixtures of flags, canopy sets, paper flowers, and flags. We'll look at all these little screenshots I was able to get. And there's no mention of scenery, which is just a little bit of a shame, but we'll talk about my entire feelings on this in a little bit. But there's also a new scenario, which is cool. We get another Mexico scenario, which is fun. But yeah, that's really it. So let's dissect these animals really quickly. Let's talk about the ones that we actually have images of first. We'll go ahead with the coyote. I feel like they shouldn't have shared this image because it does not look the best. Maybe it's just a terrible angle because I feel like the key art for it looks so much better, but this is just not really an appetizing angle. I don't know. There's eyebrows on one side of the face, but the other side doesn't have those whiskers or eyebrows. I don't know. It's kind of strange, but obviously the animals of this pack are not really too morphologically different than what we currently have in game. The coyote is a canine after all. I believe the genus is still Canis, which is very interesting. So it will move and sound just like a dog. Hopefully we get actual coyote calls for this species. That would be very interesting. But this is probably going to be the biggest complaint when it comes to this pack, and we'll talk about all of our thoughts overall after we're all done with these little species kind of features. The next one is the ocelot. The ocelot doesn't look half bad. It actually looks fairly good. I'm pretty happy with how it looked. I'm pretty much expecting there to be a remaster of this from Gaboy, fingers crossed. I always do love to see that, just because I don't really have the best eye for realism in animals, but I love it when other people do. But it looks like they do have very unique patterns, which I'm very excited for, and it's just a very cool animal. I'm happy to have an arboreal animal in Planet Zoo once again. Not the arboreal animal I would have wanted for this pack, but that's neither here nor there. Next is another arboreal animal, which is always so good. It is the white-faced Saki monkey, and it actually looks fairly good. I'm always happy to see more primates in the game, especially New World primates, which now we have a grand total of 2, which is great. But the face model is actually fairly good on these guys. They have this kind of weird cartoony kind of face, which is fun, but they do have those very iconic whiskers that come with the white-faced Saki monkey, and they also have the 2 bulges of white on their face, which gives them their name respectively. It's just a solid looking animal. I hope they move differently from the capuchin. So far it seems like they might just move barely differently because that is clearly the hand cleaning animation, but their tail lies on the ground, which is good. It's definitely good. It's a step in the right direction, but I don't know. We'll talk a lot more about these choices in a little bit. Besides that, we get a better look at the greater RHEA in the trailer. The RHEA, of course, if you guys watch Urban Rescue Ranch, I have my own thoughts on him, but we do have the greater RHEA, which is very cool. I'm very happy with this. Like, it looks like all of their feather detailing is really coming together super well. It looks super clean too. which is really awesome. It looks like, just judging from these two individuals in the trailer right over here, there's going to be just a little bit of color variation, which is great to see. I love that male back there with just that black on the chest. I don't know, the chest leading up to the neck. That is something that you'll see a lot in male RHEAs, which is very cool, but it's just a really solid animal. It's from South America, of course, so we finally got the lost ratite. Tinamu stands, get out of here. We don't want to hear from you. If we actually get an official Tinamu in Planet Zoo, that's the day I quit. That's the day I actually quit. But no, we finally got the final major ratite, which I'm very excited about. And it's just going to be super solid for like South American areas. Like, I've been wanting a RHEA for so long, especially to go alongside, like, you know, my maned wolf exhibits or my giant anteater exhibits. They make a solid pair right over there. We're probably going to get some good interspecies enrichment from those two right there. But yeah, that's really it when it comes to those. There's also the animals we don't know about. The bighorn sheep, we don't have a specific kind of bighorn sheep in here. We just have the bighorn sheep. In case if you guys aren't aware, there's two major subspecies when it comes to the bighorn sheep. There's the desert bighorn sheep, which inhabits kind of like Mexico, Baja, California, all that stuff. I believe they also get all the way up to like Utah, I think. But there's also the Rocky Mountain bighorn sheep, which more so lives in Colorado, Montana, all that stuff. Both are very cool subspecies, and I think that this, whatever we get, is probably going to be a lot more of a desert bighorn sheep based upon like the vibe of this pack, which is interesting, but that's cool. I don't know. I'm very excited about that, and I will defend the bighorn sheep. I will not call it a doll sheep clone because it is a relatively warmer climate sheep, which I think we really, really did need. Either that or the Aoudad. I would have been happy with both, or either, or, and we got the bighorn sheep, which is pretty, I don't know. I'm excited for that. But beyond that, we also got the American flamingo, which I will put away my bitterness of having to discontinue my mod for that because, oh man, that lasted me a while. But no, I'm super excited that other people like console players will be able to finally use the American flamingo. Super excited about that. Wish it were the Chilean flamingo personally, because that's more so what I would use in my parks. And honestly, I think that goes along with the vibe of this pack just a little bit more. It's a South American species. I just think more South American specific species are needed for this game. But that's really it right there. Besides the bush dog. The bush dog is probably the coolest animal in this pack because it's just a very unique carnivore. It's not like something where it's like, oh, the ocelot, but we already have like the clouded leopard in there. It's kind of like another leopard, kind of longer cat kind of like thing. I don't know. Okay, ocelot, I might not be able to make a good argument for, but RHEA, it's another ratite. White-faced Saki, it's another primate. Coyote, it's another canine. But the bush dog is one that I am super, super excited for. We have one at the local Stone Zoo where I live. It's not that local. It's about an hour away from me, but I always do love to see those species. So seeing them kind of get the pedestal this time around is awesome. I really wish they opted to make the bush dog the poster child for this pack, because I think the coyote is just going to drag this pack down respectively. I love coyotes. I completely respect their role in the ecosystem, but unfortunately a lot of people do see them as pests and a lot of people don't see them as zoo animals, which is a little bit of a shame. And I think having that be there when you look at this pack is gonna kind of drag it down a bit. And there are several other things that kind of drag this pack down a little bit, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. I'm just very happy about bush dog. Bush dog is really awesome. I don't know. That's really it. So what is really glaring about this pack is that these seemingly are all mostly clone animals, quote unquote clone animals. Now, I'm not saying that in a bad way whatsoever. I'm actually very happy with the addition of most of these animals. I think bighorn sheeps are going to be super good for kind of like more California inspired zoos. I remember seeing desert bighorn sheep at the San Diego Safari Park and they had a fantastic exhibit. I think they were actually combined with something over there. I think it might have been California condor, which was really, really awesome. But bush dogs are incredible species to have in zoos as well. Oh my gosh, they're not that common, but they are super, super like charismatic. I don't know, they're adorable. They're actually one of the closest things to dire wolves, which we have, which I'm not sure if you guys saw the news on that, about the cheap hacks. They're trying to push a timber wolf as a dire wolf. Very interesting. But yeah, bush dogs are really awesome. White-faced Sakis, again, they're not too different from like any other New World primate, but it goes such a long way to get just a little bit more representation for South American primates. South America is known for its primates after all, so I'm very excited about that. The coyote, of course, it's just another canine, but I'm very happy to have it nonetheless. I think it's a pretty cool species. The RHEA is another great species. Again, as I said, having more interspecies enrichment animals goes such a long way as well. I think that's really cool. And then finally, the American flamingo is just a very helpful species to have when it comes to making like your bayou themes, or if you're making like a very modern zoo, you want a very big splash pop of color really, and then the American flamingo pretty much covers that niche perfectly. But all in all, there's a very big omission over here, and that to me is the Coyo-tea mundi. Now listen, I can completely see where people are coming from, where it comes from like, but Planet Zoo needs bird. To me, I don't think Planet Zoo really needs birds. I think Planet Zoo needs the good animal. And to me, a Coyo-tea mundi would be the perfect good animal. To me, it provides everything that I'm looking for in a new species, which is it's arboreal, which helps me make even more interesting exhibits. It has the interspecies enrichment bonus, which they've been paired with primates in the past. They've been paired with spectacled bear in the past, which we recently got in the Zookeeper's pack. That would kind of go a long way to help push this pack against Zookeeper. Like that would be the perfect little bundle, right? But to me, not having a Coyo-tea in this pack in particular is a huge let. Like I don't want to say I'm upset with Frontier, because like I'm very happy that we have these species. The ocelot again is very cool. I forgot to mention it right back there, but I wasn't really asking for an ocelot. I wasn't really asking for a bush dog. I wasn't even asking for flamingos or RHEAs or Saki monkeys. I was asking for a Coyo-tea because they are just such an iconic animal. They're a useful animal, and they're such an important animal to have in zoos, not just in the stateside, but also in Europe. I know they're super popular over there, and I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that the lack of inclusion of a Coyo-tea is a little tone deaf on Frontier's minds, especially with how recently they've been a little bit under scrutiny based on some animal choices, and the fact that they're like, the more animals we get, the more the holes seem to be a little bit more apparent. Now, I'm not really part team secretary bird. I'm not really team walrus. I'm more so team like tree kangaroo than anything else. But the other big species that really aren't common in zoos, those really don't bother me. But what bothers me is the lack of useful, unique species that we do have in zoos across the world. And that to me is the Coyo-tea shaped hole in my Planet Zoo heart right there. So it is just a little bit of a shame. Now, granted, this could all be in part due to the recent kind of like decisions on Frontier's part about where they should focus their efforts really when it comes to like the reception of Planet Coaster 2. Now, I don't think that we were supposed to get this pack, which is why we got so many species that seemingly might be a little quote unquote low effort. Now listen, I'm a Planet Zoo modder. I make mods for Planet Zoo. I can tell you just how difficult it is to get an animal into Planet Zoo that looks synonymous with the Planet Zoo art style. And it's very difficult. It is very difficult. So when I am looking at this and I see 7 great species, like I'm not knocking them. I'm happy, I'm grateful for them, but I really wonder, would it have been worth it to step aside like 1 or 2 of these animals to really give the community something that we've all really been asking for such a long time? Now, going back to my point over there, this is probably a pack that they threw out because of the current financial situation in regards to the Planet Coaster 2 kind of life cycle. They kind of opted out of making DLCs for Planet Coaster 2 instead of focus on free updates, which I'm very grateful for, do not get me wrong, but doing free updates, that's not going to sell huge amounts of content for the game. That's probably going to get a couple people who are on the fence back into Planet Coaster 2, and this is kind of like a little jab at Planet Coaster 2 in a way, but like in the most respectful way possible. Please, I would buy Planet Coaster 2 DLC if you guys actually made it, because to me, it's not the base game of Planet Coaster that's the issue, it's the lack of interesting theme. And bringing back the Wild West, that was pretty good, but it's not good enough. I need like full content packs for that game to really kind of like abide my interest, if that makes sense, you know? But all that being said, they probably looked at that situation in Planet Coaster 2 where it's probably not making the most amount of money, and instead they are looking back towards Planet Zoo to see where they can kind of make up the change where it comes to Planet Coaster 2. Did I say Planet Coaster 2 twice? Looking back to Planet Zoo to make up the change. And because of that, they're like, what can we put together quickly that can satiate Planet Zoo players and make just a little bit more money? And they looked at all of these animals, which again are very popular on the Planet Zoo Nexus, which kind of signifies kind of easier to make, you know? Not to knock the credit or like the effort that they put into these animals, because they do look pretty good. The coyote, maybe not the best angle of it, but like the other key art of it and stuff, they looked pretty good. But again, they're just relatively lower on the on like the effort scale, I would say, as compared to a coati or a spider monkey or something along those lines, or even a howler monkey. But all in all, like, this is a fairly good pack. I'm not upset about it whatsoever. And the fact that we do get all these new scenery pieces, we should probably talk about those a little bit. I have a couple screenshots over here from trailer. But yeah, like, I'm fairly happy with it. We got those little flags that you get in Mexico, and we also have my screenshot totally prepared. Okay, yeah, all these screenshots that I have over here, we do have some really good, like those metal window coverings and like these metal pieces. Those are going to be really awesome. I can really see a ton of good uses for those in terms of like super good theming, and those are going to go such a long way for custom fences for your exhibits too. You also have these paper things on the ground, which I think some people might find a very unique way of incorporating those into their zoos, which is super fun. And you also have these images of, like, you know, the animal signs on the back. And it's that classic watercolor style that we typically see, that we've been typically seeing ever since, like, you know, at least a year ago or something. And I love this art style. I really love it. I would love it for base game animals, though. I would love that. But yeah, that's kind of brings up one of the other glaring omissions over here is the lack of free content. And now, listen, I'm not gonna be the horse that bites the man's hand or whatever it is. How do you say it? Look a gape horse in the mouth? I don't know. But when I get a Planet Zoo update, or at least when in the past we would get Planet Zoo updates, those would always be the best part of like the content for me, because not only do we get DLC, which honestly gives us a little bit more, it gives us animals to play with and it gives us a few scenery pieces, but it doesn't really change the gameplay of the game. It doesn't really change what you can do. If you load into your Planet Zoo game right now and you say build a bush dog habitat, you can build the same bush dog habitat you're going to make in 2 weeks when you actually do get the real animal in your own game. But the free updates really do change it up. I'm thinking about the restaurants. I'm thinking about the souvenir shops. I'm thinking about all that stuff, which really helps push you to build in a different way, in a way that takes into account the mechanics of the game. And I really do appreciate that. Lately, I've been doing a few Planet Zoo projects with my buddies that really haven't been, you know, taking advantage of the in-game systems. You know, the scenery shops, oh my gosh, the souvenir shops, the restaurants, all that stuff. They don't really take advantage of the game. Well, they do take advantage of the game, but I haven't really been playing with those because there really hasn't been a new way to get me back into that way of playing the game. And I would appreciate that. I would really want something alongside that. Not even any mention of like FlexiColor for old sets like the India set, which I think is super important to have. Like that India set being FlexiColor is still #1 on my Planet Zoo wish list, and I would really hope that we get something like that relatively soon. But this is going to be fairly interesting because I do not see this as the final Planet Zoo pack. This really does not scream final Planet Zoo pack. Zookeeper kind of did. But I really do think that they're throwing this pack out right now as a way to bide just a little bit of time. Now we can start to see them start doing maybe 2 or 3 DLCs a year as opposed to the 4. And I really hope, and I'm crossing my fingers, I'm knocking on wood, that they put in the effort to bring over some species that will make everyone happy. That will be the ones that people have been asking for such a long time. Because really, the coati is such an omission from my standpoint over here. I'm super upset that we don't have one in this pack, and it's really sad because it would have fit in perfectly over here. But if we get one in the next pack with a tree kangaroo and, you know, 50 other animals that everyone's asking for, that'd be fine by me. But I'm looking at this from a positive lens once again. I'm happy with these 7 animals. I think they're pretty good. I think think all of them are useful in their own rights. I think all of them add a little bit of something to the game. It's just the Coyo-tea would have added so much more. It really would have added so much more. But with that being said, that's my initial takeaway from this entire kind of DLC reveal. I'm sorry I don't sound more excited. I'm just a little bit tired today, so I'm kind of just being in the 5 p.m. grogginess. But I'm very excited to hear what you guys have to say. I bet the community is either going to be completely torn on this once again, which is a little bit of a shame because I'm super excited for playing with these animals, and I hope you guys are too. But yeah, once again, you guys can check out all these animals on the Nexus, which is another thing. But I'm very excited to hear what you guys have to say. What was your initial reaction to the trailer? What was your initial reaction to pretty much all these animals when you were reading like the little store copy or whatever? I'm very curious to hear what you guys have to say. If you're surprised by anything, really the only surprises in here would be the ocelot and the bush dog. But besides that, I'm very curious. And with that being said, have the most wonderful, wonderful days. I can't wait to hear from you all. And yeah, stay subscribed if you want to stay up to date with your Planet Zoo news in the future and with the America's Animal Pack. Yay. Have a great one, guys. Take care and goodbye.